Welcome to the Almond Conference 2020, a virtual event hosted by the Almond Board of California. Proudly sponsored by Yara North America, Burrell USA, Tomra Food, JKB Energy, Bayer Crop Science, Satake, Qsify, and Valent USA. Coming to you from the historic State Theater in the heart of California's Central Valley. It's the annual State of the Industry Address with your host, Almond Board of California President and CEO, Richard Waycott, and special guest, Almond Board Chair Kent Stenderup, and Vice Chair Brian Wahlbrink, with a presentation of the prestigious Almond Achievement Award, and a special thank you to Dr. Karen Lapsley.
Well, Richard and Brian, here we are at the State Theater in downtown Modesto, built in 1934, and the Almond Board started in 1950. And here we are now, 70 years later, celebrating a virtual conference for the first time ever.
If your mother could only see you now, we're backstage at the historic State Theater in Modesto, California.
Guys, thanks for letting me be a part of this today. I know this is territory for the CEO and chairman, but thanks for bringing me on board. And this is my first ever virtual conference, and I'm totally pumped that the almond industry is behind this one.
Richard, you're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, we're almost ready. Man, I'm glad I got a haircut before this gig, huh? If I could just get rid of the dandruff, darn it.
Well, the mirrors and lights don't lie. I guess I'm ready to go.
Stay focused and think almonds.
I think I'm ready. Here we go.
Go get him, Richard.
3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go.
And now, your host, Richard Waycott.
Welcome to the 48th Annual Almond Conference, this year being brought to you from the historic State Theater in downtown Modesto. This conference we began planning about 12 months ago. And at that time, Sacramento told us we would be having this conference at the newly renovated Convention Center in downtown Sacramento. And then with the advent of COVID in June, the board of directors made the decision to hold this conference in a virtual format. So thank you for joining us today for the State of the Industry presentation. We'll be looking back at this year and some of the amazing things that went on that influenced the industry. Maybe not in the best way, but some things in a very good way. And I think it's sort of a good example of what we went through planning this conference, where we had to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, and maybe a D, E, and F, which is very much what you all have lived through this year too, with your growing operations or with your processing plants or with your businesses right around the world. So I think the resilience and the ability of this industry to handle a large crop, to be able to ship the numbers we've shipped is really admirable, and congratulations to all of you for that. So to help me with today's presentation, I have two of our industry's finest, the chairman and vice chairman of the Almond Board of California, Mr. Kent Stenderup and Mr. Brian Wahlbrink. Gentlemen, please join me on the stage. Greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings, good to be here. Thank you, Richard.
Please take a seat.
Thank you very much.
So, here we are.
Sure are.
And a little bit different than, we usually have a couple thousand people out there, but that's not quite the case this year. But thank you for joining me, and I look forward to sharing a lot of comments about this year and what lies ahead. You're very well known up and down the Central Valley because of your operations and your involvement in the industry, but this is truly being broadcast around the world. And so there are probably a lot of people out there that aren't quite sure who Kent Stenderup is and who Brian Wahlbrink is. So would you just take a couple of minutes and tell us about yourselves, about your family a little bit, and about what keeps you busy day in and day out? Kent?
I'm a third-generation family farmer down in Arvin, California, southern end of the valley. My grandparents came in the 1920s from Denmark, and today I farm with my father and my father Werner and my cousin Andy. My wife Patty and I have two wonderful kids, John and Julie. And it's I've lived on that farm all my life, and I hope to live there a lot longer.
And you farm several products, right? Not just almonds.
Yeah, we have half the ranch is row crop, and then the other third is, the other quarter is grapes,
Perennial grapes,
yeah.
and then almonds. So you're experimenting with a lot of...
I'm a former cotton grower who's enjoying being an almond farmer today. So
Great. So Brian, you're almond only, aren't you?
Almond only, yeah. Thank you, Richard. Thanks, Kent, and thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Brian Wahlbrink with Sperry Farms. We're a fifth-generation family farm. I've had the privilege of owning and operating this farm with my in-laws, Jeff Sperry and Wes Sperry. We consider us progressive growers, as we are almond only, as you said. We spend our days focusing on efficiency and how we can do our job and improve the environment at the same time. Happy to be here and pumped up for the day.
So I don't want to focus too much on what we've all lived through this year, but I think for our industry, it really just has been an extremely remarkable year like no other. The number of curveballs that came our way, both with the COVID-19 situation, obviously, but as well as the retaliatory tariffs in China that have continued throughout the year. The basically lockdown in India, our largest export market, which occurred in the spring for a couple of months. The worst fire season here in California that we've ever had, which was really a trying situation due to smoke and just the general condition that the state was in. We did have a beautiful bloom, a record bloom, and we're headed towards what appears to be a 3 billion pound crop, by far our largest. We also had a pricing situation which wasn't the most desirable over the last few months, and we've had to deal with that. Just an awful lot to deal with. And again, as I said in my opening remarks, the resiliency of this industry is really phenomenal. So Kent, turning to you, with all of those things, and I think the list probably goes on a little bit longer, how did you manage in your operations, and how did you react to all this?
I'll never forget that day, the initial statewide shutdown regarding COVID. Our employees came to work that next morning, I think it was a Wednesday, and they had this sad look in their face, rather sour look in their face. And I said, what's wrong? I've never seen that before throughout all the employee base. And he said, do we have a job? Can we go to work today? They hadn't processed it yet that they're known as essential. I knew that, we'd known that immediately, but they had not. They were so grateful then that they were deemed essential, which is important in their lives and my life, and we're glad to be back at work.
So they were on the brink of thinking, I've lost my livelihood here.
I lost my livelihood, and
I could get sick, possibly.
Wondering if unemployment covers something like this. Who knows what was going through their head.
Yeah. So let me turn to you, Brian. So how did you all manage through this?
Yeah, we had some tough discussions with our processor handler in the spring when COVID's impact wasn't really fully known. We knew we had a large crop coming. We kind of saw the price drop, and it was really difficult, as growers for the year to watch this price slide away and watch all that equity kind of evaporate, a month-on-month period. I think it's more of a good discussion, in the future if we can kind of start looking at, the gross revenue per acre and really try to quantify the victories of these large crops, because as we're growers, that's all we can do. We can go out there and try to grow the best crop we can, and a lot of us did this year. And, the price dropped, so it feels like you kind of failed, but I think if we start looking at that gross revenue per acre number, I think it could kind of really turn our attention there. And I was looking at the slide and just agreeing with the volcano over the world there. I think that was, very well suited.
With all of this, if you sort of take the industry as a whole, in the 2019-20 crop year, sort of, how did we do on the production side?
Well, we did really good. In 2019, objective estimate was 2.2 billion pounds. The actual crop came in at 355 million pounds larger, or 12%, which is good news as a grower. We have more to market. So that was in 19 and 20. It pushed the carryout, though, from 450 million pounds versus 318 million pounds the prior year, which was okay. Demand was strong. We had ample old crop to ship in August and September to meet our market needs.
Yeah, that was phenomenal that we sort of were able to take advantage of that demand by having enough carry-in.
Right.
So again, with all these issues, and when we think about the lockdown in India, we think about, we really didn't know what was going to happen to consumption either with the COVID situation. People are going to stop eating almonds and maybe shift to something else. But we had a remarkable year despite it all. So Brian, how would you summarize sort of the 2019-20 shipment year?
Yeah, so I mean, despite everything and the upheaval in 2020, we increased shipments by almost 5%, which is a real testament to building global demand year on year, which I think you can strike right down to the work of the GMDC, which I'm a proud serving member on. The real mantra there is just to create demand ahead of supply.
What's the GMDC?
That's the Global Market Development Committee. Thank you,
good.
Richard. We work in a lot of acronyms on Almond Board, so yeah. So Global Market Development Committee, and we create demand ahead of supply. And I think it really, in big production years, we see that pent-up demand really kick in.
So with this quite impressive result of global shipments, maybe, Brian, I'd have you address the domestic market, and then we'll turn to Kent to talk about exports. But how did this large market, obviously being the U.S., how did it perform this year?
Yeah, like you said, Richard, U.S. market is the largest, 774 million pounds, 33% of the entire shipment volume, as you can see compared on the graph right there. So every percentage increase is really impressive, and last year's 4.5% increase. And the Almond Board of California has been investing in the growing U.S. market for many, many years, fundamentally changing the attitudes from ingredient-based to a daily must-have snack. We've been focused on consumer nutritional benefits, transformation of the almond image, and then really focusing on great return on investment.
So as you said on the slide, we can see that in exports we shipped almost 1.6 billion pounds. And with a container ship behind us, I think it's appropriate, Kent, to ask you to address what happened in the 1920 crop year with export shipments.
Globally, we had an increase as well, 5% over the previous year. But it wasn't a uniform increase. Looking at looking at the chart there, our 5 top historic exporters, India was up 11%, Spain was down 2%, Germany up 21%, and China, that sore spot, minus 23, probably due to the 55% tariff more than anything. Mm-hmm. And then also United Arab Emirates up 25%. As you can see, a third of our product goes to the Asia and Pacific area, and then a third goes to the Western Europe, and then a third to the rest of the world as far as the export size.
So we're not overly dependent in any one region or any one country, and the versatility and diversification in the industry is one of our strengths. Yep. So it's a great aspect of the industry. So Kent, continuing on and sort of turning to this year, the 2020 estimates made history, like we're making today.
Good old math, yeah.
And when you talk about this year and last year, if this year does live up to a 3 billion pound crop, we've got some growth numbers that are just off the charts, don't we?
Yes, we do. So the USDA NAS estimates came out, and for the first time ever, the subjective and the objective were the same at 3 billion pounds. So that 3 billion pounds, we knew it was on the horizon. I don't think too many people thought it would expected it this year.
Not quite this soon, right?
Not quite this soon. Maybe a couple of years from now we'll hit 3 billion pounds, but not in 2020, but we did. Well, it's been forecasted, and we're going to be fairly close to that. If the 2020 crop is 3 billion pounds, that'll be an increase of 730 million pounds in the last 2 years. That's a 32% increase.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
32% within 2 years. My goodness.
With this type of 32% increase in supply in 2 years, the fact that we shipped 5% more last year, we're in double-digit growth so far this year. It just is a great demonstration of how we can move through these bigger crops, and there aren't too many industries that could take a 32% increase in 2 years and be able to survive. So, Brian, our friend Kent here mentioned the sore spot, and he was referring to China, and we've had some difficulties there. Great potential, obviously, but can you sort of take us through the last few years of what's been going on in China?
Yeah, sure thing. And with that kind of growth, I mean, there's 2 countries that have over 1 billion population, so obviously we have the crosshairs focused on them. Almond Board of California has been investing in China for many years, along with India. China was the #1 export market, but India today is our largest export market. But China is down 42% in the last 3 years, from 170 million down to 99 million pounds. But the good news, we're up 11% this year. So
yeah, we had a good kick in the October shipments to China. So maybe Chinese New Year, without having COVID in that country, or much reduced from last year, obviously, we might see a good result. What about the situation with our I would say our main competing country in almond production, Australia? What's their relationship with China?
Watch it.
Well, the Aussies have a little better deal than we do in China. They have a 0% free trade agreement as compared to our 55%, so they're getting almonds into the country at a lot cheaper. But for the success and future of the industry, we need to have unimpeded access to China and India, flat out.
So we talked about the domestic market, the export shipments, sort of what's been going on there. It's about 70% export, 30% domestic. As you look out into the future, especially sitting on the Global Market Development Committee, how do you see the role of exports, maybe versus domestic, or what will that? Are we going to see some shifts here, do you think?
Yeah, I think with that kind of population, I think it's vital. I think export shipments are increasingly important. With the growing crop, you have the middle class populations increasing abroad in some of these other countries as disposable income permits consumers to afford higher quality proteins. There's a nutrition and health focus in these emerging markets in these larger countries. So I think all of those kind of are on the umbrella of the GMDC, and underneath that for the Global Market Development Committee, we studied the world landscape closely and recently expanded into Mexico, Italy, and then brought back Japan. We've done a lot of marketing in Japan, but happy to be marketing there again. We also had a very large investment increase into Germany.
If you talk a little bit, Kent, about our industry and just sort of sum up what we've been through in the last 12 months, just to sum it up.
Well, with the advent of a possible 3 billion pound crop, I witnessed the handlers, very responsible handlers, getting out in front of it and starting moving product, setting monthly shipping records that, they needed to do. Growers were concerned that what are we going to do with these extra nuts? We're going to have to fill up our backyards? No, we haven't.
Stockpile in the backyard?
Stockpile in the backyard. No, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen extra nuts spilling over into people's yards.
Brian, what about you? What the last 12 months? What are your reflections?
I think the key word is resilience, Richard. And as I look at this picture, we have our family there in the middle, and I get a chuckle because that's my father-in-law.
What a beautiful family.
Thank
beautiful
you.
family.
Thank
Brian.
you. That's my father-in-law, Jeff Sperry, and he's not a public figure, so I'm really enjoying that he's on the side of the industry right now, so that's fantastic. But I think it's a snapshot of the industry. It's 90% family farms, and that's who the almond growers are, is a nice picture there.
Your skin looks pretty good there.
Yeah, that was a few years ago, though. I'm not gonna lie. But our industry has a great story. We crossed 1 billion pounds back in 2002. Then we had this global real estate crash in 2007 and 2008, and we just kind of kept on pushing upwards. Then the naysayers said the 2 billion pound crop is going to collapse the industry and everything's going to go to heck. And as we crossed through the 2 billion pound mark, it was $3 and $4 a pound. So as we're rocketing that, we're enduring a 2-year battle with China. We have a 3 billion pound crop, and we were still hanging on. And then that little thing called COVID, I think, kind of knocked us off the momentum there, and dropped us down. But I think that if you look, the current record shipments are bringing us back, so you're not going to keep us down too long.
Yeah, it's interesting how before the billion, it was, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to market 1 billion? And then the 2, and now the 3, right. And we just keep finding out how to do our jobs better, and we're successful.
Accepting the challenge.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking of which, Kent, good segue. Let's turn to talk about the future and the vision of this industry. You were both involved in the development of our current mission a couple years ago, and I think it's just a great way to capture who we are and who we really want to be in the future. And it is that almonds make life better by what we grow and how we grow. So I thought, Ken, I'd start with you, and really, what does that vision mean to you?
Brian, I'll take what we grow, and if you'll follow up with how we grow.
How, yes.
Okay.
What and how. That sounds good.
Okay, I'll do the what. Well, we grow the kernel, obviously, in the hulls and the shells and the woody biomass, and we've got to deal with all of that. The Almond Board works on all of that. And in the meantime, while we're growing these beautiful trees on their 25-year life cycle, we're sequestering carbon, benefits there, and then we've developed an ecosystem habitat that is beautiful. Just driving up I-5 or 99, almond orchards are our forests, right? Aren't they? Just have to think about it that way. The grower employment, over 100,000 jobs directly related to almonds in this valley. And with those jobs, we grow the communities thrive, schools, churches, and those entities all thrive.
So it's really creating a lot of fiber in terms of the infrastructure and the community throughout the valley.
It has become the fiber of this great valley.
Of the state, yeah. Thanks for that, Kent. So Brian, let's talk about the how.
Yeah, I think the how is just as fascinating as the what. No offense, Kent. Sorry about that. But I think we're looking at continuous improvement and the sustainability journey we're on with so much innovation happening right now. On the how, it's almost hard to keep tabs on everything that's going on, all the exciting projects, really from whole orchard recycling to sterilized insect technology, robotics and drones, just to name a few. But it's important to point out that the industry will select the innovative technology that will best serve it and really roll with it into the future.
The mission, again, achieves the vision, and it's sort of how we reach our goal. And so mission's very important in terms of supporting the vision and making sure we get there. So would you like, Kent, just to talk a little bit about how our mission does that?
Yeah. It's not that hard to do. Expand global consumption, right? That's all we need to do. And then we can sell more at a better price. It'll take three areas that we need to work on, though. As you see up here, the strategic market development. I was able to attend the Global Marketing Committee meeting. The discussion was the upcoming Olympics. Do we spend more or do we spend less? Tough decisions. That's the strategy. That's why those people like Brian are in on that committee. And the innovative research, continued innovative research, so you can see almonds in more aisles of more stores and globally shipping shells and almonds and getting return on our investment on that type of thing. And then the accelerated adoption of industry's best practices. We already grow a really good crop. We want to continue to be better at that so that we are able to market ourselves and be proud of the way we grow.
Right. So, Kent, I want to turn to the 2025 Almond Orchard goals. We developed those. Brian and you were very involved in developing those as board members a couple of years ago, and they are setting targets for us by the year 2025 to improve our industry in 4 different areas. What do those goals mean, do you think, to the future of the industry?
First of all, thank you, Richard. First of all, I'm very glad to be supportive and proud to have been part of that. Brian was there also. Brian and I, we encourage everyone in the industry to help us towards attainment of these goals. There's 4 specific areas, and we'll go around here. Water use efficiency. We're getting better at it, but we're not done yet, okay? Because we need to get more almonds per acre foot, period. Air quality, particularly harvest dust. We all know that it's out there. We don't like having to make excuses to our neighbors or to our friends that are visiting from town that why it's so dusty here. We need to quit doing that. Pest management, adoption of more environmentally friendly methods. And we know how to do that, and we continue to work on that, whether it's sterile insect technology, whether it's something more biological. The zero waste of our 25-year-old orchards, when they're done, the whole orchard recycling. Obviously the cogen plants have kind of gone by the wayside. We don't have that anymore as far as generating electricity. That's a sad note, but we'll evolve into something else. We'll find a way to do it.
And then better uses, optimal uses for the hulls and shells
exactly
we produce. So an important aspect of achieving those goals is the California Almond Sustainability Program. I know that, Brian, you're a proud member of the 9-module club, and our esteemed chairman is as well. He likes to point out. But why did you embrace CASP, as it's called, CASP, and what is the value proposition for you?
Right. So yeah, as a fellow grower, I completely concur with Kent on all the 2025 goals. As a proud member of the club, both of us are, not to isolate me here, means I've filled out all 9 CASP modules. CASP, the California Sustainability Program, is 11 years old. It's digitized now, it's reformed, it's streamlined, and it really only takes about 5 or 6 hours from beginning to end to put all your ranches in there. So CASP is not an audit or a certification program. It's not telling you how to farm. It's a self-assessment program that aggregates information. It allows you to compare farming practices to peers in the industry. It reveals your position versus the industry. And then it gives us direction towards better practices. It also provides very important calculators for irrigation and nitrogen. And kind of a final, plug for it. It helps you. It facilitates filing paperwork with state agencies.
Yeah. So multiple benefits. Exactly. And again, linking CASP to...
Yeah, so the Almond Board of California has worked diligently to obtain the ability to benchmark CASP, and it's shown here on the slide. And there's some very large logos and certifications on there. But really the one we're focused on is the Sustainable Agricultural Initiative Platform, or SAI. It's a globally recognized evaluation tool adopted by some of the largest food manufacturers, and the ABC has established equivalency. We became involved with CASP because sustainability is one of our fundamental goals, a key goal at Sperry Farm. So it's very easy for us to jump in, head first and really go for this thing. It's a great value to the growers of the industry because it allows fellow growers to establish a baseline that acts as a guidepost to help make key decisions. The grower info is then aggregated. It's confidential. It's held confidential by Sure Harvest,
that's important.
who we employ.
Very
yes,
important.
exactly. The Almond Board of California uses the summary data, trend analysis, and then the aggregated data helps us with the goals as a progress indicator, kind of on where we're going, where we've been, and where we're going. So all in all, CASP has multiple benefits.
So again, we strongly encourage all growers to take a look at CASP and contribute by taking those 5 or 6 hours and filling out the 9 modules, because that aggregate information is just so vital for many of the reasons that Brian cited. So we had a significant change in scientific affairs this year with our Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Kern Lapsley, deciding to make a change in her life, and her replacement by Dr. Josette Lewis. I think you have a special friendship that you developed with Dr. Lapsley, and I'm sure you'll do the same with Josette. But how would you characterize, sort of over the years you've worked in it, the ABC's capabilities in scientific affairs?
Dr. Karen Lapsley, my good friend, she's just meant so much to me and the Almond Board and California almonds in general. She and her husband, John, are literally going to sail off into the sunset. Their sailboat is moored or tethered or whatever it is.
Moored.
In the San Francisco Bay, waiting for that next tide, the perfect tide, to take them out. And they're looking forward to that. She's a matriarch of nut nutrition, as far as I'm concerned. Her work with clinical trials, she came on board initially 22 years ago? Yeah, 22 years ago, as the director of nutrition. And people weren't doing that much nutrition work back then. But the Almond Board decided to start doing this. Karen eventually became Chief Scientific Officer, moved her up a step or two. But as a matriarch of nut nutrition, she did the clinical trials, worked with health professionals, and helped us develop this health halo. But if you can develop that aura of a health halo, literally an aura, we have that today, and my goodness.
She really catapulted us into the superfood
took it.
territory.
We're so fortunate to have Karen, but then again, once we have Josette moving up, getting ready to continue the process. I'm looking forward to working more with Josette Lewis.
Great.
Dr. Lewis.
Well, I think everything you've cited is absolutely correct, and I've also enjoyed just a wonderful professional relationship with Karen. But I have a little secret for you. We actually have a surprise visitor today, and that surprise visitor is Dr. Karen Lapsley.
Oh.
Come on out, Karen.
Hello, Karen.
Hello.
So, welcome to the stage at the historic State Theater.
Yes, well.
It's wonderful to have you here.
Unique experience.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you very
Yes,
much
indeed.
for inviting
Well,
me.
it's great.
Wow.
This is a great surprise. It's great to have Karen, my friend Karen, up here. Karen, I'm going to share this with you. Karen had this. I call it the Kent Initiative. She would put Kent in positions that he normally wouldn't go. I had to climb up some really steep learning curves at a time or two. One time at San Francisco at the Global Water Summit. And then of all places, Cal Berkeley, that was a tough place to go to. We went to the Sustainability Conference. And in those rooms, I probably had the lowest IQ in the room, Brian. I don't know
what that feels like.
You never have to worry
I know
about
what that feels like.
Oh, they
But-
liked you, Ken.
Well, but then that, it helped me as far as my learning, and then also I think I was able to contribute a little bit. So, Dr. Lapsley, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much.
Brian?
I think one of my favorite stories was just going back to 2010 to Chicago Institute of Food Technologies, and I got the pleasure of traveling with Karen, and she was the closest thing to a researcher celebrity that you could imagine walking the floor. We really had a great trip, but it was amazing to see the global recognition that you had there and the respect that everybody gave you. So it's just been such a pleasure, working with you, but also, going to the show with you there. And the amazing knowledge and research base, you will be very missed, so don't go too far. Make sure you come back and visit us.
Okay. All right.
So Karen, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. As you look back on your 22 years at the Almond Board, sort of, if there is one thing, what maybe was the most meaningful part of those 22 years to you?
I'd have to say that the milestones in terms of the nutrition research program. The almond industry, I think, had great foresight to start to invest in human nutrition research 25 years ago. So from that perspective, when I arrived in 1999, there were only 2 published papers. And from that point of view, that was a little hard to have establish a marketing communications platform for almond health benefits. But I'm very proud to be able to say, now under the direction of Dr. Kelgankar, we have over 185 published papers.
Wow.
So that sound scientific base, I think, has played a key role in the outreach as we've expanded the markets for almonds globally.
Yeah, no, it's been the fundamental driver for sure. And thanks for all of your insight in that area and being able to accomplish it. So last question that I would like to pose is, as you look back, what was sort of the most fun you had at the Almond Board? And I'd say that because some scientists aren't all that much fun maybe, but Karen is a huge exception. She has a fantastic personality and has a great sense of humor. So we had a lot of fun working together. But what would you say was the most fun you had?
Well, I'll call it fun/challenge, because I think that the past 5 years and setting up the biomass research program, there was truly elements of the Wild West there. I mean, all of us, I think collectively, really have been on a steep learning curve, because, salesmen came out of the woodwork telling us, they could do this and that for our industry. But I think in terms of investing in and trying to make decisions of what avenues to follow, whether it's for the woody biomass, the hulls, or the shells, we have to look at technologies that are environmentally sound, economically viable for you guys, and also scalable.
Right off the bat.
Technologies. So in terms of making optimal use of everything coming out of the orchards, that was also a great learning curve for me.
And for me.
I think for all of us. So yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Well, on behalf of the Almond Board staff and me personally, I'd just like to thank you for a wonderful 18 years together and all of the accomplishments and fun that we've had, and wish you and John very well as you take the ebb tide out underneath the Golden Gate Bridge.
It's the ebb, huh?
And we have just a small gift for you here that
thank
hopefully
you.
will be useful, but again, thanks so much and best of luck in the future.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone, obviously in terms of the staff, the board, and the industry, because it has been, a challenge, but never dull, and a true milestone of my career, a highlight of my career to work for the California almond industry.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
we have a very talented board of directors, and you're representing them today. Just quickly, I call it the high-paying job. It's a high-rewarding job. Financially, it doesn't do much for you. But what does it mean to you to serve on the board of directors?
So 13 years ago, I got the question, how are almonds consumed globally? And I didn't know. So I began my journey in 2007 with the North American PR and Ad Committee, which is now the Global Market Development Committee. And I saw a collective group of amazing, passionate volunteers between industry members, staff, and agencies. And just really got to see the Almond Board of California committees operate at a very high level, and I just feel very lucky and fortunate to be a part of the entire thing. It's a really fun wave we're riding right now.
Well, thanks for all your service all these years and for being vice chair at the moment. Kent, what about you?
Well, my family's always been involved in the commodities we grow, whether it's at the board level or volunteering in some form like that. It's good to know and it's good to contribute, but I'm truly honored to be part of this. This is a big one.
Brian, one that you're super involved in, which is a really interesting one. You're chair of the Harvest Working Group, and I'd love you to tell us a little bit about what you and your peers on the working group are doing.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks, Richard. This is the fun one. This is the real gritty and dirty group who gets the pleasure of the major goal of trying to reduce harvest dust by 50% by 2025. But I think we've already learned that progress is never a straight line. You know, when it comes to these initiatives, I've loved being involved with this group. It's such a diverse group. We have such an exciting future. So you have growers, handlers, researchers, and there's 8 orchard equipment companies on this group. And take a moment, it's remarkable to have 8 competing companies come into this room and talk about the betterment of the industry.
Do they leave their logos at the door?
They leave them in the parking lot. I mean, it's not even at the door. So, you know, it's really amazing, and I so appreciate everybody doing that. And we have so much participation. This year the main focus was, the existing equipment. We were talking about conditioners. We were talking about the low-dust harvesters. But what's interesting, we've really turned the attention of USDA, CDFA, and the Air Board programs, and there's actually been some very high-dollar incentives for growers to participate in these programs and help with the acquisition cost of equipment. But I think the long-term aspiration, it's my personal goal and dream, is really off-ground harvesting. And I think when people hear that term, they think of that typical shake and catch system where we're just coming around the tree and catching them. But off-floor just means they're not touching the ground. So there's been trial use of tarps and some really other exciting things. So we're encouraging growers and the manufacturers to really think big when it comes to these things. And there's a few pictures of the off-ground trials, and I had the pleasure of going to Israel and watching their 90% of their industry. It's only about 15,000 acres, but they're almost all off-ground. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see all the technology come together. But when you introduce off-ground, there's other benefits, cover crops, cleaner biomass. So Kern's biomass group can really open up new opportunities to look at some of that revenue and some of the return on investment.
Brian, I think it's fair to say with that $1 million smile that you've become quite a celebrity of late. You've done some really interesting things in terms of social media communications. We're going to play a little clip now of one of your daily postings, which are just fantastic. And then I'd love you to talk a little bit about that experience.
Hey guys, Brian Wahlbrink, Plan B Ranch 2, we're picking them up. This is the harvester right behind me. We're gonna spin it around and get ready on the action today. Tractor, PTO, Ford Harvester 860, sucking them up, separating the dirt right there, dumping it into the res cart. There's a dump cart taking them, bump stopping. As soon as he fills up, that seat turns around and away he goes. Here we go. Just like that.
Boom.
So do you end each of your each day just like that?
That was the only time the entire harvest was that one there. Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about your experience with this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't really expect to watch that on stage in front of people, so that's definitely a different experience there for me. But I've had amazing feedback. I even in the upper left picture there, I even had Carrie Walsh comment on the final post of harvest, and this really started about 4 years ago, and my family and friends from Southern California and Orange County were asking me, what's going on the ranch? What's happening on the ranch? And I said, well, let me show you. And I just grabbed the phone and I did a day one of harvest, and 4 years later, I have over 160 harvest-specific posts, but it's been a lot of fun. I've been able to bring consumers into the orchard, especially in the COVID era when everyone's kind of behind the computer there. But it takes very little time. It's creative and fun, and it breaks up the intensity of harvest. I've thought that if a picture's worth 1,000 words, is a video worth like 100,000 or what? But I even have the great Mel Machado is watching, and just an amazing almond grower, and I love interacting.
So
and
Mel's one of your followers?
Yeah, Mel is watching the videos.
You must be good.
Yeah, it's very big. But no, it's been a lot of fun, and it's really been, I think, great to highlight some of the things from the Harvest Work Group and some of the other things that growers are doing on a regular basis. And really would just encourage everybody else to grab the phone and spin it around and just say what you're doing today. Yeah, but it's been a blast. So yeah, thanks
great
for highlighting.
Well, thanks so much for doing that on behalf of all of us. So I'm glad you're having fun with it. Just like that.
Just like that.
Okay, I remember that. So just to wrap up this part, Kent, in terms of social media, it's one example of how industry communication really fits into the context of the future profitability of the industry in the sense of keeping us relevant of an industry and understood as an industry. So how do you think what Brian's doing and our reputation management efforts, why are they so important in positioning our product in the minds of consumers and driving a profitable capability for this industry?
Very important. The industry's reputation is one of our greatest assets. Now we're going to show a video with a partnership with the Atlantic magazine, and it has Christine Gemperle, who is an alternate on our board. She's starring in this, so please enjoy this.
As almond farmers, the stakes for climate change are really high. One of our goals is to be a zero-waste industry. It's really important that we become part of the solution. Nice fat one. Okay, guys, let's go. I'm Christine Gemperle, and I'm an almond farmer here in the Central Valley of California. My brother Eric and I run this farm together, and we're surrounded by 40 acres of trees. What a lot of people probably don't know is that 91% of almond farms are owned and operated by families. There is a sense of stewardship that I got from my dad. He was the first farmer I knew in my life. He was an almond farmer here, but before that, he was an immigrant from Switzerland. As a farmer, you live in the here and now to some extent, but you really are always looking almost a generation ahead.
I would say the last 10 years, you could really tell that the weather is just warmer. Some years you get less rain too. We don't get enough snow in the mountains.
When I think about climate change, I think about water scarcity. Are we going to be able to grow food? Are we going to be able to provide nutrition for the world? It's such a long-term investment when you plant an orchard. You get really attached to these trees. You watch them grow up. After 25 years, you have to say goodbye to them. because they've reached the span of their life. In the past, the orchards were ground up and taken to cogeneration plants and made into energy. But we've actually found a better use for them now in whole orchard recycling.
Right now, we're seeing the trees being removed, and they'll sit on the ground for about 2 weeks before we start grinding them. We're actually taking it and reincorporating it back to the ground, which is, helping the environment.
On our farm, we're seeing some really great benefits. The first one being reduced carbon into the environment. For each acre recycled, that's the equivalent of a person living car-free for a year. We're also finding it's really good for the soil health. It shovels like butter. It's such easy soil to work with. And it also helps water conservation, which increases your water holding capacity 20 to 30%, which is huge.
When we first started 3 years ago, I'd say 20% of the growers would take advantage of it. And now that we're 3 years into it, I'd say about 80% of the growers are actually going into the whole orchard recycling program.
Yeah, my son was 1, I think, when we planted them. One more. There, stop. You always hope that you have a child that wants to continue the farming tradition. This is some of the best land to farm on the planet. And because of that, it should be farmed responsibly. And doing it responsibly is going to help with climate change, because we all play a role. We all can do something.
So thank you, Christine Gimberly and the Gimberly family, for that wonderful video, a great contribution to the industry and our reputation management around the world. So speaking of being part of the solution, the Almond Board of California every year awards the Almond Achievement Award to an industry member who definitely has proven to be part of the solution. And that person is selected from many candidates normally. It's somebody who has demonstrated lasting impact on and commitment to the California almond industry. And on the slide, you can see the recipients for the past 9 years since the Almond Board has been awarding this award. And now I would ask Ken Stenderup to please announce the recipient of the 2020 Almond Achievement Award.
Thank you, Richard. It's an honor. And Brian was part of this. On November 19th, the board elected, nominated, voted Jim Paiva as the recipient of the 2020 Almond Achievement Award.
Correct.
Jim planted almonds in many places in the state, especially western Kern and the Sacramento Valley. Jim and his family farmed more than 5,000 acres of walnuts and almonds. Jim built Paiva hulling and shelling and was the founder and partner of River West Processing Company. Here's a few quotes now we're going to read to you. Jim Jasper, the owner of Stewart & Jasper, and the 2015 recipient of the Almond Achievement Award. I cannot think of one person in our industry that would be more deserving than this honor than Jim Paiva.
It's a quote from Algo Demerchian, the CEO of Durco Foods. Jim has supported his employees and others within the industry in very substantial ways to which he would never admit. He never let success get to his head, and he never forgot his humble roots.
Joe Connell from UC Cooperative Extension in Butte County. Jim Paiva's personal and custom farming, Paiva hulling and shelling, and River West processing have impacted the almond industry for decades. Jim's willingness to help others solve problems and his innovative ideas are pursued with little regard to personal cost. He is an excellent UC Cooperative Extension cooperator and supporter of the University of California almond research.
Thank you. Les Herringer, manager M&T Chico Ranch and an almond farmer. In reading the award's eligibility requirements, I believe that this award was written for Jim Paiva. He has been involved in and has a long record of proven service to the California industry throughout his life. Jim was also devoted to his community, Salvation Army, 4-H, FFA, and many youth sports. Sadly, on November 20th, Jim Paiva passed away. At the appropriate time, we'll travel to Chico and meet with Jim's family to celebrate his life and present the Almond Achievement Award to them. Our most sincere wishes go out to Jim's wife, Geraldine, his sons, Dan and Jim, and their families. Rest in peace, Jim Paiva.
Thank you, Jim. Speaking of Almond leadership, I'd like to flag the Almond Leadership Program, which is in its 12th year and has been a great success in bringing younger people into the industry, educating them about all facets of the industry, as well as all of the operations at the Almond Board of California. This year was remarkable also for that program in that the 2020 class is also going to be the 2021 class. A lot of the program activities in the leadership program involve personal visits and group activities, which obviously because of the COVID year have not been able to take place. So we'll be extending the program through 2021. Thanks very much to the leadership class participants this year for hanging in there. We will get it done, but unfortunately we couldn't get it done within the 12 months that we typically take. And I'd like to give a shout out to Bear for being the sponsor of this program both in 2020 and 2021. And wish Bear and the leadership class participants much success. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for dropping by the Historic State Theater in downtown Modesto to share your thoughts about the industry. It's been a great pleasure and a lot of insights, a lot of topics we covered today. I think that you represent the board of directors, the committees, the working groups, and I represent the staff that work together throughout the year and certainly throughout the 70 years of the almond industry to, again, provide that platform where the industry can come together and really do great things. And as you said, Kent, make sure that the grower funds, which we receive as part of the grower assessment, are invested well and achieve a high return for the industry. So just to close out today's State of the Industry, I thought I'd offer up to both of you to give us any closing comments that you might have.
What comes to mind quickly, thank you, Richard, I'll go first. What comes to mind is that board that was sitting in 1950 somewhere in Sacramento, I believe. If you would have told them that their industry, this is going to swell up to 1.5 million acres, that's larger than Delaware, isn't it? I believe so.
It's about the
same
state
size. Of Delaware. And it's 3 billion pounds. I wonder what they would have thought about projections such as that. Well, what is our maximum? Stay tuned. That's what we're here for.
That's right.
And Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. What a fun and exciting time to be an almond grower and industry member. It took us 55 years to get to 1 billion pounds, and then just a mere 18 after that to get to 3 billion. Yeah. And a wise man and my buddy told me that after pandemics and great times of global change, there's a period of dramatic innovation and collaboration. So I look forward to riding the wave with everybody. And lastly, I just want to say to all my fellow almond growers, we made it. We survived 2020. It's over. So enjoy the time with your families over the holiday, and I'll see you in the fields in 2021.
Great.
Thank you.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for being with us today for the State of the Industry and making history with us, not only in being in this lovely theater, but also the first virtual conference that the almond industry has produced, and for being here again to celebrate 70 years of the ABC. We hope you found it insightful and informative, and please email me should you have any follow-up questions or comments at rwaycott@almondboard.com. We wish you a very healthy and happy holiday season and a less remarkable in many ways 2021. Please stay tuned as the announcer will now guide you through today's agenda and give you a few navigational tips about how to use this virtual platform. Again, many thanks, be well, and so long from the State Theater in downtown Modesto, California. See you later.
And that's a wrap for the 2020 State of the Industry Address. Now it's time to head on over to the breakout session rooms for presentations on a wide range of subjects. Breakout sessions will run from 9 to noon each day, Pacific time. After the breakout sessions, exhibitors will be in their booths ready to talk to you during the dedicated trade show hours from 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific time. The exhibit hall will remain open throughout the conference. However, if you want to visit with an exhibitor, please come back during the dedicated trade show hours. The Almond Stage presentations and research updates are open at all times during the Almond Conference. Be sure to complete your personal profile to earn your first badge and compete against other attendees to earn special prizes. Also, check out the lounge and say hello to your friends in the Almond community. Now, go have a look around the Almond Conference Virtual Convention Center and have a great day.